In the lands where silence carried weight lies the forgotten fear of a Viking warrior.
They feared many things: winter hunger, stormy seas, a blade catching them off guard. But there was one fear they almost never spoke about. A fear not of enemies, but of the very gods they prayed to. The Vikings lived in a world where everything had a cost. A good harvest, a safe voyage, a victory in battle. None of it was free. They believed every blessing had a shadow behind it, and every god carried a price. Their stories weren't written in books. They were whispered near fires, traded between sailors, or muttered by farmers who refused to travel at night. And behind those quiet words was the same question: what happens when the gods you trust turn their eyes toward you? Because for the Norse people, the greatest danger wasn't what they could see. It was the gods who waited in the dark corners of their world, watching, judging, and never promising mercy. Every Viking knew the power of a promise. A man's honor lived or died on his word, and behind every sworn oath stood one figure: Tyr. He wasn't loud or boastful. He didn't demand songs or gold. But they feared him, not because he was cruel, but because he never forgot. If a man swore falsely, people said Tyr would take something from him. Not with fire or lightning, but with consequences that felt strangely precise. A sailor who lied about a deal might lose the wind for weeks. A warrior who broke a vow might find his sword slipping from his hand at the worst moment. Nothing dramatic, nothing supernatural. Just too perfectly timed to ignore. Some chiefs refused to swear at all unless they absolutely had to. Not out of weakness, but because they feared Tyr was always listening. And when a god listens closely, even silence feels dangerous. There was another presence the Vikings rarely named aloud, not because it was forbidden, but because no one wanted to draw attention from it. Hell, not the fiery underworld of later imagination, but a cold, quiet realm where the forgotten went. Those who died of sickness, age, or simply faded from the world. Vikings didn't fear her judgment. They feared her indifference, to die without story, without song, without being remembered. That was the horror. There are tales of families who refused to speak of a relative who died poorly, afraid the silence would draw hell's gaze toward the living, as if she walked behind those who were close to giving up, waiting for them to slip. A farmer who lost his harvest might say nothing for days. A warrior wounded and weak would avoid looking toward the west, where they believed hell's realm lay. Not superstition, just the sense that despair had weight. And if it grew too heavy, something would come to claim it. Thor was loved, but love is not the same as safety. He protected farmers from the chaos of the skies, but storms were still his voice. When thunder rolled over a settlement, the ground trembling, people felt it as a warning, a reminder that even the god who defended them could turn harsh. There are stories of fishermen who stayed ashore for days because lightning struck the same rock 3 times. To them, that wasn't chance. It meant Thor was unsettled, angry at something no human could see. Children were kept indoors. Boats stayed tied, not because anyone believed Thor wanted them dead, but because no one wanted to be in front of him when his strength overflowed. His protection came with a truth the Vikings respected deeply. Power never cares who stands too close. Odin was the All-Father. Wise, restless, relentless. And that last part is what frightened people most. He demanded knowledge like a starving man demands food. And those who followed him felt that hunger too. A man might wake with a sudden idea to travel far, too far, to take risks that made no sense, to chase signs in dreams, believing they meant something. Some said Odin whispered to those who were already close to the edge, not to comfort them, but to push them further. Warriors who sought his favor became unpredictable. Poets who prayed for insight sometimes slipped into long, silent trances, as if Odin had opened a door for them. But not everyone returned the same. He didn't demand blind loyalty. He demanded the parts of a person they could barely afford to lose: their time, their peace, their certainty. And once you gave those away, there was no getting them back. Some fears didn't have a single god behind them. They were woven from the world itself. The Vikings believed the line between safety and danger was thin, especially in the deep woods or on long winter nights. A traveler who vanished without a sound, a hunter who never returned. These weren't blamed on monsters. They were blamed on the gods allowing the world to swallow the careless. People didn't fear punishment. They feared being overlooked. When no god stepped in, when no sign appeared, when the land itself felt like it wanted silence. That lack of intervention was the most terrifying of all, because it meant the gods had turned away. For the Vikings, fear wasn't a weakness. It was a guide, a reminder that every choice mattered. A broken oath could ruin a family. A moment of despair could pull someone into darkness. A careless journey could leave a ship splintered against the rocks. Their world taught them that the gods were not villains or saviors. They were forces, quiet, powerful, and never predictable. When a storm lasted too long, when a warrior lost heart, when a home grew colder each passing year, people didn't look for evil spirits. They searched themselves first. Had they forgotten a promise? Had they ignored a sign? Had they walked too far into a destiny that wasn't theirs? Fear kept them alert, humble, balanced. And in a world as harsh as theirs, that fear probably saved more lives than it ruined. Even now, 1,000 years later, one idea remains unsettling. They believed the gods rarely raised their voices. They didn't need to. A missed step, a whispered instinct, a change in the wind. That was enough. Because the gods the Vikings feared most weren't the ones who roared. They were the ones who watched and waited in absolute silence. And if a god like that ever turned its attention toward you, you might not realize it. Not until something in your life suddenly goes quiet.